She did not walk away because you were lacking. She walked away because you made yourself entirely too available to someone who did not know the cost of your time. And right now, your chest is tight, your mind is racing, and you are exactly one text message away from giving up the very last ounce of your dignity. Stop. Put the phone down. Because by the end of this exact video, I am going to reveal the single psychological mechanism, the vacuum protocol, that will not only completely rewire how she views your departure, but will fundamentally reconstruct your masculine identity forever. But if you skip ahead, if you rush this process, you will remain perpetually trapped in the cycle of begging for someone who is already gone. And here is the brutal truth that most men simply refuse to swallow. When betrayal happens, your biological instinct is to fight for it. You want to argue. You want to send that desperate 4-page text message explaining your worth. You want to force her to see the logic of your devotion. But logic does not exist in the theater of lost respect. And this is exactly where 99% of men dig their own graves. They vomit their emotions, believing that vulnerability will somehow win her back. It will not. It only proves her terrifying hypothesis that you are fundamentally weak without her. But the man who chooses absolute, unbreakable silence? He does something psychologically devastating. He completely denies her the script she was expecting. She expected the pleading. She expected the anger. She expected you to orbit her life like a desperate, broken satellite. But here is the critical pivot that changes everything. When you go completely dark, you create a massive psychological void. You stop being a predictable, emotional character in her story, and you instantly become a massive, unreadable mystery. Let us break down the actual psychology of this specific dynamic. Human beings are deeply addicted to emotional feedback loops. When she betrayed you, or when she walked away, she fully anticipated a reaction. That reaction is her emotional safety net. It tells her she still has immense value, that she still holds supreme power over your nervous system. And this is the exact moment you must realize your true, dormant power. By giving her absolutely nothing, by wrapping yourself in a terrifyingly calm silence, you completely sever her emotional supply line. You are not just ignoring her. Ignoring is a passive-aggressive game played by insecure boys. Silence is the heavy, calculated, ironclad boundary erected by a man who has suddenly remembered his own monumental worth. But wait, because the rabbit hole goes much deeper than just her reaction. Let us look inward. Let us look at what is actively destroying your own mind right now. You are suffering from literal withdrawal. You are treating her validation like a chemical narcotic, and your brain is screaming for just one more hit. One more conversation. One more pathetic excuse for closure. And this is where the bridge collapses for almost every guy watching this. They mask their absolute weakness as a noble search for closure. Let me permanently destroy that myth for you right now. Closure is a massive scam invented by people who lack the sheer discipline to walk away from a burning building. You do not need her to sit down and explain why she struck the match. The fire is your closure. The blatant disrespect is your closure. The cold betrayal is your closure. And the very second you accept that cold truth, your silence transforms from a fragile coping mechanism into a weapon of mass masculine reconstruction. Yet here is the secret, agonizing phase that absolutely nobody prepares you for. The brutal echo chamber of your own solitude. When you first initiate this absolute silence, it is going to feel exactly like you are suffocating underwater. You will sit alone in your room, and the silence will be completely deafening. You will replay the phantom memories. You will painfully question your own intrinsic value. You will wonder if she is out there laughing at you, forgetting you, moving on as if your history never even existed. And this is the ultimate crucible. This is precisely where boys break and kings are forged in fire. Do not run from that agony. Sit directly in the center of it. Let it burn away the codependent, desperate, needy version of you. Let the pain surgically carve out your weakness. Because what emerges from that intense fire is a man completely and utterly immune to the emotional manipulation of others. But let us dramatically shift gears, because you need to know exactly what is happening inside her mind while you are enduring this invisible fire. Day 1. She feels a sense of relief. The conflict is over. Day 5. She feels a strange curiosity. Why hasn't he called to beg? Day 14. The terrifying cognitive dissonance begins. And this is the psychological bear trap she sets for herself. She starts to wonder, with a creeping anxiety, if she totally miscalculated your market value. She thought you were a guaranteed sure thing, a comfortable backup plan resting lazily on the dusty shelf of her life. But your absolute silence proves you are a sovereign, dangerous entity. You are a man highly capable of walking away from his own deepest desires if they cost him a single drop of his self-respect. And there is absolutely nothing more intoxicating, nothing more magnetically attractive to the feminine psyche than a man who absolutely does not need her to survive the winter. But here is the ultimate fatal trap. If you are doing this just to manipulate her into coming back, you have already lost the war. Silence as a cheap manipulation tactic is incredibly fragile. Women have a biological sixth sense for fake performative stoicism. If you are silently waiting by your phone, vibrating with pathetic anxiety, just hoping she notices your strategic absence, you are still living as her emotional prisoner. True, elite masculine silence is born from a genuine tectonic shift in your core identity. It is the deep cellular realization that you are the absolute prize of your own life. It is the unwavering understanding that your time, your energy, and your undivided focus are the most valuable currencies you possess on this earth, and you flat out refuse to spend them on a terrible investment. And this brings us to the ultimate life-altering question. What do you actually do with all this new, painful, dark energy? You immediately transmute it. You become a master alchemist of your own intense suffering. Most average men try to drink the pain away at the bar. They try to numb it with cheap digital dopamine, meaningless video games, or hollow distractions. And this is exactly why they remain completely average. But you are going to take that profound, chest-crushing betrayal, and you are going to use it as pure, unadulterated rocket fuel. You are going to attack the iron in the gym with a dark, terrifying intensity. You are going to aggressively pour that raw aggression into your business, your studies, your absolute financial sovereignty. You are going to quietly build a physical and mental fortress so massive that when she eventually looks back, and believe me, they always look back, she will not even remotely recognize the giant you have become. And let me warn you right now, this is exactly when the ghost from your past returns. Just as you start making real progress, just as the pain finally begins to dull, you will inevitably get the ping, a random text, a meaningless meme, a casual, "Hey, just checking in to see if you are okay." And this is the ultimate final test of your new foundation. Most men fold immediately. They see that glowing screen and their heart rate skyrockets. They foolishly think their silence worked, that they somehow won the game. So they quickly reply. And the very second they reply, they surrender all of their hard-earned leverage, mathematically proving the silence was just a temporary emotional tantrum. Do not be that weak man. When that ping comes, you do not respond with bitter anger. You do not respond with a long-winded philosophical explanation. You do not respond at all. Your silence must remain absolute and impenetrable. Why? Because access to your energy is a high-level privilege that she permanently revoked the exact moment she disrespected your loyalty. You are not punishing her like a child. You are strictly protecting the empire you are currently building. But let us dig much deeper into the elite concept of masculine grounding. What does it actually mean to be fundamentally grounded in the face of absolute, soul-crushing betrayal? It means you become exactly like a deep-rooted ancient oak tree in a Category 5 hurricane. The wind aggressively howls, the black rain lashes, the heavy branches might even violently shake, but the massive trunk does not move an inch. You feel the pain, absolutely. You acknowledge the cold betrayal, yes, but you completely, utterly refuse to let the storm uproot your grand purpose. When you walk through the daily world with this kind of unshakable, terrifying grounding, the very atmosphere around you changes. Other men respect you instantly. Women are magnetically drawn to that silent, heavy gravity. Because in a modern world entirely full of erratic, overly emotional, highly desperate men, A grounded man is an absolute anomaly. He is a quiet king sitting calmly on his throne, entirely unbothered by the loud chaos of the peasants outside the castle walls. And this is exactly the rare artifact she threw into the ocean. She foolishly traded solid, unbreakable ground for sinking quicksand, and your silent, relentless progression will be the painful daily reminder of her colossal miscalculation. Let us closely look at a real-world application of this principle. Imagine a deeply committed man who meticulously builds a beautiful grand ship for someone he loves. He pours his entire soul, blood, and sweat into the craftsmanship. And right before they are supposed to finally set sail, she casually sets the wooden ship on fire and walks away without looking back. The weak man dramatically stands by the smoking ashes, screaming into the wind, pathetically begging her to come back and help him carefully sweep up the gray dust. The average bitter man loudly curses her name, carrying the burnt, smelly wood with him wherever he goes, poisoning his own future relationships. But the elite man? The elite man looks at the smoking ashes in absolute, chilling silence. He slowly nods. He turns his back, and he walks deep into the dangerous forest to violently chop down much bigger trees to build a massive dreadnought entirely for himself. He never looks back. And this brings me back to the core, psychological reason why your unbothered silence is so incredibly devastating to her fragile ego. You have forcefully removed her from the center of your universe. You have officially demoted her from the leading starring role to an unnamed extra in a spectacular movie she is no longer allowed to watch. And the human ego, especially one used to constant validation, absolutely despises being totally ignored. But again, let me aggressively emphasize, this is no longer about her. This is purely about the violent reclamation of your own masculine soul. You have been walking around with your sovereign power freely handed over to someone else. You allowed her fleeting text to dictate your entire mood. You let her response rate mathematically determine your own self-worth for the entire week. That pathetic era of your life is officially, permanently over. From this exact microsecond forward, your own self-respect is the highest, unquestionable law in the land. And absolutely anything or anyone that threatens that sacred law is immediately, ruthlessly exiled from your kingdom. Without warning, without a fair trial, without a dramatic final speech, just cold, clinical, permanent removal. But wait, we must brutally address the tiny doubt creeping into your mind right now. You are secretly thinking, what if she is completely different? What if my specific situation is highly unique? What if she just deeply needed space to find herself? And this is the exact insidious lie your addicted brain tells you to keep you hopelessly chained to hope. Let me be brutally objective with you. Your situation is not remotely unique. Human psychological behavior is terrifyingly predictable. Disrespect is disrespect. Betrayal is betrayal. If you bend your iron boundaries to accommodate her bad, toxic behavior, you are actively teaching her exactly how to mistreat you in the future. You are officially setting a dangerous precedent that your masculine boundaries are merely polite suggestions. And a man with no firm boundaries is simply a man with no identity. So you must intentionally burn the false hope of what was to forge the undeniable reality of what will be. Let us talk about the elite tactical concept of ghost mode. Ghost mode is the physical and digital embodiment of your absolute silence. It means total, unexplained disappearance from her entire radar. No secretly watching her social media stories from a fake account. No casually asking mutual friends about her weekend. No posting sad, philosophical quotes or aggressive gym selfies designed entirely to get her attention. You must completely vanish. You become a total phantom. Why is this protocol so insanely crucial? Because the exact moment you consume her digital footprint, you instantly break your own psychological fast. You aggressively reset the clock on your own healing. And much worse, if you are specifically posting to get her attention, she knows it. Women are incredibly biologically perceptive. They can literally smell the hidden desperation radiating from a meticulously curated Instagram post. The only true, undeniable flex is genuine, unbothered, total disappearance. You let the heavy mystery do the heavy lifting. You let the dark void scream infinitely louder than any desperate words you could ever aggressively type. Now, let us dive into the absolute deepest psychological layer of this intense process, the terrifying confrontation with your own inner child. The vulnerable part of you that is hurting the absolute most right now is not the logical grown man. It is the young, scared boy inside you who deeply felt rejected, who felt unlovable, who felt like he simply wasn't enough to make her stay. When she coldly walked away, it actively triggered a deep-seated, ancient wound. And your impulsive urge to chase her, to quickly break the silence, is actually just that young, desperate boy crying out for external reassurance. As the man, as the sovereign king of your own mind, it is your sole responsibility to firmly parent that inner child. You do not violently tell him to shut up. You sit calmly with him. You tell him, "I know it hurts terribly, but I have got you now." We absolutely do not need anyone else to validate our existence. We are entirely enough. When you finally heal that core bleeding wound, the pathetic desire to break the silence completely evaporates. You suddenly realize that chasing her was never actually about her. It was entirely about desperately filling a massive hole inside yourself. And the exact moment you fill that black hole with heavy self-respect, she becomes completely and utterly irrelevant. Let us pause for a second and fully reflect on the absolute majesty of what you are achieving right here. By maintaining this brutal, stoic silence, you are officially joining an elite, hidden brotherhood of men who have completely conquered their own wild emotions. You are walking the exact path of the ancient emperors, the Stoic philosophers, the battle-hardened warriors who deeply understood that the greatest, bloodiest battle is never against the external enemy. The greatest battle is always against your own weak impulses. When you successfully conquer the urge to text her, you conquer yourself entirely. And a man who has fully conquered himself is a completely unstoppable, terrifying force of nature. No woman, no toxic betrayal, no sudden economic collapse, no intense adversity can ever break a man who has already mastered his own internal chaos. And this brings us directly to the ultimate psychological trigger I promised you at the beginning, the vacuum protocol. What exactly is the vacuum protocol? It is the deliberate, calculated, ruthless creation of an absolute psychological void in the exact space where you previously existed. When a relationship ends, there is always an energetic exchange. She fully expects you to leave a massive mess, to leave a lingering, annoying presence, to leave a pathetic trail of emotional debris. But when you execute the vacuum protocol, you violently suck all of the energy out of the room. You take all of your previous attention, all of your warm validation, all of your deep emotional investment, and you instantly retract it back into your own core. Nature fundamentally abhors a vacuum. When you deliberately create this sudden, absolute void in her life, her fragile psyche literally cannot handle the sudden emptiness. She will inevitably try to frantically fill it. She will look for fast replacements. She will seek out cheap, new validation. But because you silently left with your masculine dignity completely intact, you permanently set an impossible sky-high standard. The new, weak guys she inevitably meets will be highly reactive, emotionally desperate, and totally sloppy. And every single time she deals with their pathetic weakness, the massive vacuum you left behind will violently expand. She will be forced to brutally compare their chaotic, annoying noise to your unshakable, terrifying silence. And in that exact comparison, your perceived value skyrockets to untouchable, godlike heights. She will finally realize, with a crushing, agonizing regret, that she held a king in her hands, and she foolishly threw him away for absolute peasants. But here's the beautiful, brutal truth. By the time she finally realizes this, by the time the vacuum protocol completes its dark work, you will be so incredibly far gone, so highly elevated, so entirely consumed by your own glorious purpose that her sudden realization will not even remotely matter to you. You will look back at this painful moment not with lingering pain, but with profound, genuine gratitude. Because the cold betrayal was the necessary catalyst for your evolution. The brutal silence was the dark cocoon. And the strong man who confidently steps out of that cocoon is a completely different elite species. A man of cold, iron discipline, a man of quiet, lethal focus, a man who completely and unconditionally respects himself. So hear me clearly right now. Lock the phone, embrace the terrifying void, step willingly into the fire, reclaim your heavy crown, and never, ever look back. If this brutal truth resonated deep in your bones today, hit that subscribe button right now. We are actively building a massive army of grounded, sovereign men who absolutely refuse to settle for modern mediocrity. Leave a comment below saying, "I choose myself to permanently seal this iron commitment." This is your new, elevated reality. Own it entirely.